I have just been meeting with my national security team on today's tragic events in the Middle East, and I would like to make a brief statement.
A U.S. Navy destroyer was attacked today.
And the explosion ripped a hole about the size of a house.
It was a despicable and cowardly act.
Terrorists attacked our ship and killed our sailors.
There are dead and wounded.
Claimed the lives of at least 4 sailors.
5 American sailors were killed.
15 feared dead.
The death toll rose to 17 today in the tragedy aboard the USS Cole in Yemen.
If their intention was to deter us from our mission of promoting peace and security in the Middle East, they will fail utterly.
I divorced Marc's father when Marc was 2. I divorced for the second time when Marc was about 15. Marc became the man of the house. He would help me changing the oil in my car, with the dishes and laundry, and since I worked so many hours, he would watch my second son, Jeff, when I was at work. It was then that Marc started having a hard time in school. We'd moved 3 times in 3 years. He checked out what the Navy had to offer.
Hello, is this Navy recruiting? Can you get regular pay while you're going to school?
An alternative program that would help Marc catch up with his class and get a college education.
This program enables Navy enlisted personnel to prepare for admission to the Naval Academy.
Marc wanted a college education, but I couldn't afford it.
I couldn't afford college, so the Navy was a good opportunity there.
The Navy College Fund and the Montgomery GI Bill, and up to $30,000 for college.
Marc enlisted in Milwaukee. It was very hard for me to see him go, but it was time for Marc to pursue his career, and we wrote back and forth a lot.
Ma, finally started boot camp. My company commander is actually kind of cool if you do things right, which I do. Hey Ma, well, it's Christmas Day. One day, me and a bunch of the guys that can't see their family at all because they live so far away are going to go out and party. I feel kind of bad for them because I know I miss my family, but I get to see everybody again soon. They don't.
Boot camp was hard for Marc, but he made it through. There was no stopping him. He was assigned to the newly constructed USS Cole. The sky was the limit.
USS Cole had just been commissioned, and the Navy's involvement in the Middle East was winding down after the Gulf War.
President Bush declared the suspension of hostilities as of midnight Eastern Time last night. Iraq followed with an order to its troops to also stop shooting.
As a result, USS Cole initially sailed from Norfolk, Virginia, and stayed pretty much entirely on the East Coast, running tests and trainings for its first year.
Marc did everything he could on board the ship. Marc advanced to Engineman 3rd class. He received the Good Conduct Medal, the Battle Efficiency Award, Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, the Navy Unit Commendation, and his enlisted surface warfare specialist insignia. All of this wasn't enough to keep Marc busy.
Hello. Nothing going on out here. Bored as hell. On a better note, well, I guess there is no better note. Nothing is happening I can tell you about anyway. Hey guys, another day in paradise out here. Nothing new out here. Finishing the last of my qualification for engine room operator. Another bullet for the old eval.
He just thought as hard and as busy as he kept and all that he was accomplishing, he should have made rank sooner. Nothing could happen fast enough for him. By the end of the cruise, all the guys are ready to get off the ship.
Might be going back to the Great Lakes here in a little bit. I ran a chit to re-enlist, so hopefully that will get approved. I decided I need to get off this boat.
Needless to say, Marc's chit didn't get approved, but he really hit it off with his new chief. His shipmates were his family, and he couldn't wait to introduce my family and me to all of them.
Now, you have to remember that you are spending almost every hour of every day with these people.
He told me about one crew member. Her name was Jamie. I could tell he was really taken by her.
You get close. That can be great, but sailors must watch out for becoming overly familiar, or what's called fraternization.
So it was about January when they started dating. Marc and Jamie went on leave together to visit family. They would come to Wisconsin next, and Marc would show Jamie where he would like to settle down when the time came.
Now, after a nice break, USS Cole started off on a European deployment. Now, the crew weren't initially planning on seeing much action, but they would at least be getting some beautiful views of the Mediterranean Sea.
Marc and Jamie got to visit places couples only dream of going. Venice, Barcelona, Paris. It was like a fairy tale.
Hey Ma, Norman. We are pulling into Villefranche, France today. Jamie and I are gonna take a bus and go to Paris for a couple of days. Ought to be a good time.
When they got to Malta, Marc proposed to Jamie. Of course she accepted. They had their whole life planned out.
Well, I got that job at Penn Power. I have to call them when I get stateside to set up my school, and I'll be ready to go. Jamie and I are just gonna rent a place down here until she gets done with the Navy. Then, we'll be out of here for good.
Marc would be getting home in 2 weeks and would start a job with GE until Jamie got out of the Navy. Then they would marry and planned on building a log cabin in Wisconsin.
It looks like I'll be leaving the ship sometime around the 23rd of October. Cannot wait to get out of here. Love to all, Marc.
After a couple of maintenance issues on the voyage, the Cole had to stop early for fuel in Aden, Yemen. But that's when everything really took a turn for the worse.
Jamie asked Marc about it, and he told her, it's a terrorist port, so you don't want to get off there. We'll want to refuel and get our ass out of there as fast as possible.
There were no heightened suspicions of dangerous activity. Sailors were waiting in line for lunch. It was a pretty normal day.
We were preparing to go to lunch. So we were up in our shop, and our next step was to go down the ladder to go to lunch.
Marc Nieto and a small group were preparing for a routine filter change in engine room number 1. At the same time, however, a small fiberglass boat loaded with 2 suicide bombers and more than 1,000 pounds of explosives approached the port side of the ship. As Nieto and the others were entering engine room 1, the boat collided with the Cole and detonated right outside the hull.
We were standing here speaking one moment, and then the next moment we were on the deck on the other side of the shop.
The massive explosion lifted the entire ship out of the water. It buckled the decks and ripped a 60-foot gash in Cole's port side. The ship lost all power.
The lights went out, the ventilation stopped, and we got on air so we could breathe, put on helmets, turned lights on so we could see.
Those who were still healthy immediately set up a damage control area, but the path to the damaged area was blocked by a collapsed bulkhead.
We couldn't get in, they couldn't get out. They were saying things that were, we could tell it was bad.
Eventually, the survivors were able to open a small hole in the bulkhead and began evacuating people out of the wreckage. As this was going on, other people were frantically trying to contact officials back home.
My hotline rang. It's the commander of the 5th Fleet. And he tells me that the Cole's been attacked. I have no communications with the ship. I do not know the circumstances down there yet. Wow, this was a shock.
We weren't getting any answers. We watched the TV for more information and called everyone we knew in the Navy to try to find out what happened. But no one knew anything. I had this sick feeling at the bottom of my stomach that just wouldn't go away. As far as we knew, he was still alive.
We didn't know who was dead. We didn't know who was missing. We didn't know if anybody was still trapped. Obviously, we were trying to figure those things out.
Over the course of the next few days, we began to understand exactly what had happened.
Later that evening, we got a call from Jamie. She said she was okay, but that Marc was gone. We both cried. My son would be returned to me as ashes.
They killed 17 of our sailors.
As word spread, families, survivors, and Navy communications personnel all gathered at Naval Station Norfolk.
A tragedy. They had us all as injured, all the family members staying in hotels at Norfolk Naval Base.
We left for the airport at 11:30 a.m. I hadn't gotten any sleep.
We met each of the families. And I'll tell you, that was a sobering day.
It was a hard and emotional day, and I wasn't looking forward to doing it all again the next day. I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Pretty soon, the National Security Advisor said, Vern, you got to come in here right away. There's a mother in here who's having a real hard time.
I just wish I could have talked to him and told him how much I loved him one last time.
And she and I I just wrapped my arms around her and began to tell her how thankful that we were that she had decided to share her son with the United States Navy and with the United States of America. How sorry we were for the loss of life, that he was greatly respected and his service was so important and his example was so important.
Everybody gave up something that day, whether you were injured physically or whether you were killed or otherwise. Everybody paid something that day.
And I want to tell you, I had this incredible sense of loss for those families. And I think all sailors really felt that day and that week and that month and that year.
Every single day, I think about Cole. In one way or another, it meets up with something I'm doing that day, something I'm thinking about, or I just remember.
Every sailor is acutely aware of the history of Cole and what happened here. And there's a lot of pride in that. And there's a lot of pride in not wanting to let down the Cole heroes and the 17 sailors and the Gold Star families. Today's crew really carries that on, and they know that they're part of the legacy, and they want to make sure everybody, those that have gone before us are proud of what we are today.
My son is named after my best friend on board the ship at the time of the attack. His name was Marc and Nieto, and my son is a Marc Ian as well. That helps me to remember, and that's helped my son and my family to remember as well.
Let my son live on by opening your hearts to your fellow man. Love your children unconditionally. Don't try to live their lives for them. Be proud of them for who they are and what role they choose to take in life. His heart lives on in us all.